The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's a wonderful Wednesday edition of Talking Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas in the SWBC studios. We've got Patrick Nosey Walker, Josh Rodriguez. I'm Kyle Yeomans with Chris Beam running everything in the back as we continue into this week 3. Already kind of crazy to say week 3.
Yeah, man, it's moving.
Week 3 matchup with the Baltimore Ravens and the reigning MVP coming to town. Today is, of course, a Wednesday, which means we're doing the Dallas defensive preview. And there's a lot to talk about whenever it comes to this defense. Mike Zimmer's system, some different elements to it, but also how the hell do you slow down Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers after what just happened to you on Sunday as well? So lots 100%. To look forward to today.
Lots of juicy questions on the rundown today.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that rundown is quite delectable.
It's one of these.
Ooh, it's delicious. I have some of this and some of that. Like, ooh.
Some spicy takes on the way, guys.
Yeah, it's going to get fun. Got some candy corn to pick from.
No,
I don't know about the candy corn.
Yeah. No, we don't.
No.
You can eat crayons on your own time.
Whoa, that's gross.
We're getting close to Halloween here, so
I know. Patrick decided to throw out on Twitter yesterday that he despises everybody that ever has eaten candy corn in his life, and he hates candy corn eaters. And then somehow on the back half of it, my name gets tagged in it.
Yeah.
You said that seems like something Kyle would eat.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you seem like a
maybe in
October
October.
Kind of person. Yeah.
I mean,
and you
is that because I'm corny?
Confirmed it. No, not absolutely not. But I like that.
That was a bar.
I like that. That was a bar. That was a bar. Clean rim shot. Ting. Ding. No, I mean candy corn is gross. It's and anyone who chooses to devour that might as well, like I said on Twitter, might as well start eating candles and just skip the foreplay. Candles, crayons, all of the like.
Candles don't have sugar in it.
Do you also eat black jelly beans?
Black jelly beans?
Like the licorice jelly beans?
They're not my favorite, but if it's a part of a pack, sure, why not? It's still sugary.
The poverty. Sir.
Are we going back to the booty bread? Are we going back to the ends of the bread loaf again? Are we going that direction?
What I'm saying is, if you eat candy corn, and you could be a good human being in all other facets of your life. You could be charitable. You could be philanthropic. You could be,
father of triplets.
Father of triplets. Great mom, great dad, great brother, sister. You could be fantastic in the community. And for that, I thank you. You're a wonderful human being. But if you eat candy corn, you disgust me. In that instance, once you stop eating it, and you're done, then we're good again.
So you don't despise them, you're disgusted by them.
Yeah, I'm disgusted by them, and it's moment to moment. So as soon as the moment that you're done eating that passes, then you no longer disgust me. It's really just simple.
This won't be the last time we talk about this before Halloween.
No, we won't.
Guarantee
but I
I've
will
got a
say
surprise
this.
for you.
I will also say this. Take your Christmas decorations down. Have some respect for Halloween.
Christmas decorations.
Heathens.
Who's up for Christmas?
People they have at Walmart. They're gonna have the displays out, of course, because you're getting to Christmas. No one's putting that up yet, are they?
People are putting that up, sir.
That's ridiculous.
That's a little. It's a little soon.
It's a little early.
But I will say, I don't think they're awful people. Patrick does this thing on Twitter where it's like every 3 or 4 days. Like just one thing that anyone would be like, oh, that's gross. I don't like candy corn. He's like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my days. And like Patrick, man,
it's unprompted. It's unprompted. There's no one that provokes it.
Yeah,
it's just me.
No, but I'm saying something that an ordinary casual person would be like, you know what? I don't really like candy corn very much. Patrick's like, I absolutely despise. Can't like because it's an H.G. Wells novel,
I love
dude.
what I like. And I hate what I don't. That's just kind of how it goes.
Hey, man, more power to you.
Yeah,
I love that for you.
You're all or nothing.
I'm all or nothing.
That's all it is.
That's how life has to be. You have to go all in or you pull all out. Don't you do it?
Oh.
Whoa.
Don't you do
Get
it?
to news and notes, sir.
Well,
You
news
were
and-
wild for that.
News and notes. News and notes are slim today because obviously we're coming off of a non-practice day for the Cowboys. They will get back to practice today, being Wednesday. September 18th.
Yep.
But we're looking to see what Jake Ferguson's progress looks like effective today. He's trending in the right direction. He had a quote unquote good workout on Monday per head coach Mike McCarthy. So that's a positive. His needle is pointing in the right direction for him getting back on the field against the Ravens, knock on wood, barring any type of setback this week. As far as Dalvin Cook, TBD, owner and general manager Jerry Jones told 105.3 The Fan on Tuesday that he doesn't see it in consideration quite yet, but I will again state that comment was made on Tuesday, and there's several days for the team to change their mind for whatever reason. So we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, the Cowboys came out of, which was one of the only good things. They came out of Sunday's matchup against the Saints completely healthy, had a little bit of a scare with Zach Martin. So expect to see Zach Martin on the did not participate portion of today's practice, but it's likely because he often rests on Wednesday anyway. So they'll likely treat it as a veteran rest day. He did return to the game, so that's a good sign as far as his prognosis going forward. I don't think it's anything major or even anything minor that he needs to deal with.
So on Thursday, that's where we'll get our real first look, because he's not going to practice Wednesday today because of the vet day.
Correct.
And he's going to sit out regardless. That's what Mike McCarthy said on Monday. But tomorrow, based off of what he does, that's going to be your big tell.
That's going to be telling.
What if he's limited? What would that tell you?
I'm fine with him being limited because it just means that he's
a ramp up.
Yeah, it's a ramp up. He's a veteran. They're being precautious, and there's no issue with that. Honestly, if Zach Martin was DNP on Thursday, that still wouldn't throw me back in my chair. Because, again, it's Zach Martin, and you're resting him, and the fact that he came back to the game and played is what really I would be harping on.
What would be the timeline of a DMP? Would it have to take? Okay, so Friday's DMP.
If he's DMP, I'm not counting today because it's a rest day. If it's Thursday and Friday DMP, then I'm not going to hit the panic button because they do have Saturday's practice. But definitely then I'll kind of perk up and be like, oh, well, what's going on here?
We go. Yeah.
Because also what's going to happen on Friday is we're going to get the final injury report. So if he has a game status, even if it's questionable, then it's like, okay, well,
I wouldn't be shocked if it was questionable.
no, if it's questionable in combination with two DMPs.
Two and D. Okay, so if there's like a limited in there and it's questionable,
and then
you feel pretty good about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys remember how the Tyron Smith injury in Arizona was handled? Like leading up to that game was like I'm genuinely curious, because he was suited up for that game.
Yes, he was, and then he was made inactive.
He was made inactive like hours before the game.
Yeah,
At 90 minutes.
Yeah,
because they have to file inactives.
that was a noon kick, right?
Yeah, it was a noon kick. So
But that was kind of out of the ordinary, right?
that
Sure.
it is.
I'm genuinely curious.
It's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
That you
Out
would
of the
see
ordinary.
him
All right, I'll leave it
suit that you would see him suit up, go through warm-ups and everything, and then here comes 90 minutes inactives, and they're like, oh, you know what? He's not playing. Like, yeah, I don't think this is that situation.
Oh,
at all.
yeah.
No.
Just curious.
Because again, Zach returned to the game.
Yeah,
He did.
And I'm going to keep saying that because if he had
missed
not
8
returned
snaps.
if he had not returned to the game and he was limited and or DMP this week, then it's a different conversation. But he returned, today's rest, and it was going to be rest anyway. Let's get to Friday and see.
I'll ask you this question tomorrow as well when we get a better look of who's working with the rehab group and who's on the bands and who's actually performing in practice. But your confidence level that Jake Ferguson plays this week?
98%.
Wow. Very high.
I am very confident.
Okay.
I think number one, Jake is going to push the play. But I say that in the same aspect of this is the same Jake Ferguson that said if he can't if he can't play to the standard, then he's going to sit.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was quote unquote close to playing against the Saints, that tells me that physically that knee is playable if this was a playoff game or a must win. And I'm not going to say it's a must win in week 3, but you got to win.
Yep.
Right. You need to win. And I think all things considered, I think another several days of not pushing that knee I think he'll be ready for the Ravens.
Yeah. I guess I'm more likely than not he's going to play.
Yeah.
I'd say about 60% on my end. I think you definitely need him, and part of me is worried that they might push him even if he's not. If this was a different team, if this wasn't a must-need or must-win situation, maybe you sit him. I don't really know, but I feel like they're going to push regardless to have him in there.
How I would handle his status this week is I would DNP on Wednesday, DNP on Thursday, let him continue ramping up the rehab. I would limit him on Friday, have him as limited on Friday, and then let him practice on Saturday to make that the telltale. But that gives you a perfect blend of rehab, rest, and work to make sure, because he said there's no pain issue, it's just making sure the stability is there. And it's a very minor MCL sprain. So it's not that he's working through the worst possible case scenario, a severe strain or a slight tear or anything like that. So if they handle it that way, then I'd be completely fine with sticking to my 98%. I'll say this: I would be shocked if Jake Ferguson's not on the field Sunday. I would say it that way.
Higher or lower for Martin right now?
I think Martin plays.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but it's
close to it.
99.9.
So a little bit higher.
Yeah, 99.99%.
Yeah, whatever his Madden rating is.
That's 99.
Yeah.
So I'll take 99.
I can't wait for either one of those guys not to play, knock on wood. And then everybody's going to come back to Patrick and be like, what the heck, Patrick?
And
the 1 or 2%?
They'll do that either way.
Yeah,
right.
that's
It's
fair.
going to happen either way.
Good point.
But I also qualified it by saying I too would be shocked.
Yeah.
So we all will
We
be
would all.
collectively shocked. So yeah, but again, barring any setbacks, because you have to keep that in mind as well. When a guy is rehabbing to come back, you don't want it to happen. But for those of us that have played sports, you can be on track to return a particular week or get back in a particular game, and then the day before, you cut the wrong way or you plant the wrong way, or you woke up and you slept the wrong way on that arm or that elbow or that knee. So, I mean, anything can happen, hence the 2%. But again, I would be stunned, barring a setback, if Jake is not on the field for Sunday.
That's the key right there. Is barring
a setback.
Because there are setbacks in the NFL. We've seen it
in
way
all
too many
sports,
times.
yeah.
All right, let's get into this defensive matchup for the Baltimore Ravens coming to town. Only the 7th time that these two franchises have ever met. Because,
Whoa.
I mean, Baltimore's a newer franchise to a
Yeah.
certain extent. They, of course, won a couple Super Bowls, but 5-1 against the Cowboys. Cowboys have one all-time win against Baltimore, and that was in 2016.
I was there for the final Texas Stadium game. Where we lost
that was
against
a rough one.
That was rough, man. They ran all over us, man.
Not an enjoyable day.
Not an enjoyable day at Texas Stadium. The very last game at Texas Stadium, but only 7 matchups. That's interesting.
One of the 2 to be played in Dallas. I mean, they're 1-1. 2016, 2008. Those are the only 2 to be played in the Metroplex, and the Cowboys are 1-1 in those games. But 0-3, or what would that be? 0-4 on the road against Baltimore. So luckily, we're not going to Baltimore. Luckily, the Cowboys have them at home this week.
What was the most memorable?
You say luckily,
Baltimore
and then you
matchup?
look at last week.
Yeah, that's true. What was the most memorable Baltimore matchup?
Yeah.
It's
What's the game you remember the most?
Well, man, that's tough.
Jason Garrett icing his own kicker.
Oh, that's a really good one.
That's the one.
Emotional damage.
Didn't okay.
Damn, why'd you have to bring that up?
I know.
have to bring
I'm
that
sorry, but I believe we rushed for over 200 yards in that game. DeMarco Murray was absolutely killing him, dude. And then
Why'd you do that?
Jason Garrett iced his own kicker at the end of the
Very
game.
candy cornish of you.
Sorry.
You ain't sorry. You're not sorry.
Not
at
that
all.
sorry.
You
I mean, you gotta bring it up. It's history,
revel
right,
in
guys?
the
It is
commotion.
history. I'm bringing up the box score as we speak.
We've also had a lot
to
of
talk about it.
dubs, guys.
Yeah, 31-29, and you mentioned yardage. Yeah, 227 rushing yards in that matchup in a loss. Against Joe Flacco and the
Joey
Ravens.
Flacco.
Yeah,
That's how
DeMarco
he says it.
DeMarco had
management, man. Game
14 for 93. Felix Jones had 18 for 92. And then Phillip Tanner and Lance Dunbar both had over 10 yards rushing too. And yeah, they ran all over him. But
Shouts to Lance
unfortunate.
Dunbar.
Lance Dunbar, go Mean Green.
call.
North Texas is great.
If only he could have remained healthy.
Yeah.
We never really got to see
Full-
what Lance Dunbar
I
has
know.
been. And the Cowboys
The Rams got
spent
to
a
see
lot
it.
of time post Lance Dunbar trying to recreate Lance Dunbar when Lance Dunbar wasn't really peak Lance Dunbar.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a rebound opportunity for two sides, one side or the other. Dallas, in the way that they lost in week 2 against New Orleans, this is only the second time that the Ravens have been 0-2 under John Harbaugh since he took over 17 seasons ago. So it's a lot on the table for both of these sides. Who do you feel like's under the most pressure going into this matchup on Sunday?
Ooh. Patrick, you want to take this?
I'm going to go with the Cowboys for a couple reasons. One, Harbaugh's not in the contract year.
No.
Harbaugh's not on the hot seat, not as we have this conversation.
Not right now.
Yeah, right. That's why I said not right now. That could change if he goes 0-3, right? But even if he goes 0-3, there will still be this air of, he can get it right. He'll fix these guys, right? It's still early. They'll get things together. It's the Ravens. They live in the AFC playoffs, and they typically get past this round of there. Okay, that's what will happen. That will be the discussion around that. But if the Cowboys go 1-2, dropping their first 2 games at home after what happened in January, and Mike McCarthy is on the hot seat because he's in a contract year, prove-it year, the discourse becomes wildly different, right? It's not, it's still early and the Cowboys can get it together. It becomes, they're falling apart already, and they're doing it with Mike McCarthy not having a contract next year. He's in huge trouble now, and ... The discourse will be completely different from an 0-3 Ravens team versus a 1-2 Cowboys team. Now, is that fair? Depends on who you ask. I honestly do think it's fair because one thing about Jim Harbaugh is time and again, he has shown you that no matter when the chips are down, he can figure out how to not only get to the playoffs, but more often than not, make a run in the playoffs, right? When it comes to the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, McCarthy has shown you that he is one of the winningest regular season coaches for the Cowboys. And I'm confident that if they fall to 1-2, they could still get back to 11 or 12 wins. They'll figure it out, right? Because they don't lose 2 games in a row, that kind of stuff. And we'll get to that with predictions later in the week. But it rightfully does apply a lot more pressure to the question of, well, if you're starting 1-2, number one, your odds of making the playoffs drop quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then now, once you get in the playoffs, which version are we seeing? Are we seeing the version that went to Cleveland? Or are we seeing the version that can't protect their own field? So it's just 2 different conversations. Yeah.
I think I would argue, I agree to an extent, but I feel like an 0-3 start for a Ravens team that was just in the AFC Championship, I think the pressure is there for them a little bit, just a tad bit more, because how many 0-3 teams make it to the playoffs?
No, that's fair.
And you're coming off an AFC
Championship.
Championship,
the science is there for you.
With as much as they did to build on the offense coming into this season, you bring in Derrick Henry, you try to beef up the offensive line. Part of me is like, if you go 0-3 after basically trying to bring in weapons on every side of the ball and go 0-3, man, like that to me is it does feel earth-shattering in a way. If you're a Ravens fan, it's like, what are we doing? Dude?
So here's my question that I'll pose to you, and here's what also drives what I'm saying. This is how I know the discourse will be different. Lamar Jackson, week 1, okay? All that's being talked about from that game is the toe on the line. I literally read and reposted articles from national coverage that said, and this is verbatim, Lamar Jackson left it all on the field. Lamar Jackson balled out and couldn't get bailed out by the toe, et cetera, et cetera. The level of forgiveness that's awarded to Lamar Jackson,
2-time MVP,
Harbaugh, fair. The last one is arguable.
It's not arguable because he has.
It's arguable that he should have gotten it over Dak, which is or even Christian McCaffrey. So,
but
to be fair,
to Kyle's argument,
If it didn't happen, it
If it didn't happen, it didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
Which is fair.
Yep.
Do you think the national coverage would be the same for an 0-3 Ravens team as it would be for a 1-2 Cowboys team?
Absolutely not.
And
That's in
what I'm
general.
saying.
Absolutely
That's
not, but
it.
they're
That's what I'm
hating
saying.
regardless. No matter what happens.
that's what
Even
I'm
if we
saying.
do happen to win this game against the Ravens, they're going to be like, oh, well, it's
You
an
know why?
0-3 Ravens team.
Yeah.
You know, because forgiveness and grace is given to teams that are not wearing this.
Just to
Agreed.
That's what I'm saying. So,
Agreed.
nationally speaking, 1-2 having a win on that record
is
because, but you're still sub 500, is going to be worse to national coverage than 0-3 from a John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson led Ravens team, because they're going to get all this grace, and it's not fair, but it's going to happen.
I'll give that to you, but internally, if we're talking pressure internally,
yeah.
To me, it's on the Ravens if they go 0-3.
Just to sprinkle
Internally.
a little bit
National
into this,
coverage, you're absolutely right.
and to sprinkle this into a little conversation, 6 teams since 1979 have made the playoffs after an 0-3 start. 6 teams out of 158. This is going into last year, so this number is a little bit different. Of the 158 teams that started 0-3 between 1990 and 2022, 4 managed to make it into the postseason.
Not great.
So not great
Bob.
odds in order to make it happen. The only
great,
team
Bob.
to do it since, I don't think any team's done it since they moved to a 17-game season. The latest one to do it was in 2018. The Houston Texans started 0-3. Deshaun Watson and company, they got themselves back right, and were able to push it into the postseason for Houston. But speaking of Deshaun Watson.
Well, really quickly. So to qualify this correctly, we're talking internal pressure versus external pressure.
We're talking pressure in general, but
because external pressure,
Both
it would more be on the
apply.
Cowboys. Internal pressure, it would be more on the Ravens.
Yeah.
Let me put it
That's
that
what I'm
way.
saying.
Yeah, I wanted to
there you go.
clarify that for fans.
I do want to take a break here. Speaking of Deshaun Watson, Dallas did a really good job of keeping a mobile quarterback contained in week 1. Now it takes a next step. It takes a significant step forward with Lamar Jackson and company going into week 3. What does Dallas need to do defensively to slow down the Ravens and Lamar Jackson? Right after this with more Talkin' Cowboys.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, this portion of the show is brought to you by Quaker Oats, the official oatmeal sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, trusted since 1877. The Quaker code down there to the left of Josh. Be sure to check it out. Scan that Quaker code and get your Quaker Oats. Is it a deal? What is it? Is it like a coupon? To get?
No, you just buy oatmeal from the internet.
Sick. I love that. Love that.
It's the way you
It is
said
2024, baby. We are here.
Sick.
That is so
Badass.
cool. Get after it, y'all. Scan the Quaker code today.
It's so good.
Get Quaker Oats from the internet.
Sick.
Sick. Love it.
This is the sickest hack in the world.
Patrick on Twitter after the show. That was the
It
best
is
moment
not a
I've ever had in my
scratch and
life.
sniff.
Damn right. We're all in. We're
Oh,
all out.
man. Glad you're with us here on Talkin Cowboys.
Oh, man.
I want to kind of tease a part of the show Friday. We've, of course, got Say It With Your Chest Friday every single Friday on the show. If you haven't been a part of it yet, high octane, final preview, going into the weekend. We've got a little extra knowledge that we're going to share coming up this week. And there's been a lot of talk this week from Mike Zimmer, from fans, from experts around the league talking about base packages and sub packages in Mike Zimmer's defense, and they vary significantly. We talked in training camp about pre-snap, post-snap. Well, all of that is based around the base package and the sub packages that are used by Mike Zimmer. So what does that mean? What does that look like? And how does that affect certain players? Like, I know, Patrick, you want to talk deeply on Friday about DeBarby and Overshown and how it affects him.
And just Zimmer's trends as far as base versus sub. And actually, and we'll get into it more on Friday, what is base in the NFL nowadays? Because that's not what it used to be when we were watching football decades ago. For those of us that are old enough to. So what's modern base versus modern sub? So we're going to get into that. Especially, it'll be fun to have Isaiah weigh in on that as well.
We were thinking about talking about it today since it's a defensive preview day,
Right.
but we want to get Isaiah's input into it. We want to have everybody really
Get a
dive
couple
into
film
it.
examples.
Yeah, we're going to try and bring the heat on Friday with
For
it.
sure. And if my whole thing, like outside looking in, if DeMarvin Overshown isn't in your base, fix the base. You know what I mean? Slap at the base a little bit. You know what I mean?
There were a couple times,
your 808.
and it's interesting.
No heartbreaks.
I agree with you for the most part. There were a couple times in this game, and this will kind of transition nicely into our matchup with the Baltimore Ravens and the defensive preview here. But there were times DeMarvin Overshown struggled against big men, against these tight ends, against these tackles, and getting off blocks, being in the right place, right time. His speed is undeniable. His readability, when he can find a hole, shooting out of a cannon, we talked about that already and what he did in week 1 against Deshaun Watson and company. All of that is great, but he still can get caught up in the wash. And I think that's part of him being a de facto rookie.
I was going to say,
he's played
reps.
2 games in his
Reps.
NFL career. And, I mean, it was 18 snaps on
18
Sunday?
snaps on Sunday.
So he's so new to this that there's going to be a learning curve. And I think we saw a little bit of that against New Orleans.
Yeah, it's reps. Need reps, which goes to what Josh is saying. Change your base. Right, get him more involved because he's put on some added weight to be able to take on some of these large blockers and disengage. But like we're talking about, he's a de facto rookie, and he's going to have to learn how to do that at the NFL level. And also going back to his tape with Texas, that wasn't necessarily his bag. It was more of a coverage bag. Right now, you're asking.
Well, he was a safety that transitioned.
He was a safety that transitioned, which is why I labeled him as the best covered linebacker in that particular draft. So yeah, he can cover. No doubt. He can spy, no doubt. But when you're talking about taking on some of these bigger guys and at the NFL level, that's a new facet of the game for him. And he has the size to do it, but he doesn't have the reps. So the only way to fix that is to put him more in base.
Well, I guess my question, and this will be more so for Friday, is like you have Maris Leofau, who is a rookie. Not a de facto rookie, who is a rookie and is starting in the base package over DeMarvin Overshown.
And that's because of what the actual base is nowadays for the Cowboys versus what the sub packages are, which is why you got to tune in on Friday because we're going to get into the science, baby.
And not to mention, the Cowboys ran nickel on 89% of plays in week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. They didn't necessarily do that in week 2 against New Orleans. And there's a reason behind that. But speaking to what to what Baltimore does here, Lamar Jackson, mobile, dynamic quarterback. Not always going to kill you with his arm, but he certainly can if he has to.
Not bad for a running back.
Not bad for a running back. He's much more than a running back now. I think he's proven that one. But
of course.
He's a legitimate threat in MVP level caliber play all the way through his career, and he's won it twice, no doubt. The players outside of that are what kind of give me a little bit more hope this week, because we talked about the weaponry from New Orleans, Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Alvin Kamara and all these different weapons. They have Derrick Henry, big name on the back half of his career. Zay Flowers, probably going to be a superstar in this league if he continues at the trajectory he is, but you're catching him in year number 2.
Right.
Is this weaponry from Baltimore just as talented or more talented, or where do they lie compared to New Orleans?
It's different talent. I mean, Zay, of course, is the speed.
Yeah.
You know, he's the Rashid Shaheed, you know, in terms of the speed that you have, but totally different weaponry in the tight ends. Because you have to keep an eye.
Got 2 guys.
You got 2. Mark Andrews. He's on the marquee, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone drafted him in fantasy, but you also have Isaiah Likely,
who everybody picked up in going into week 2 of fantasy.
Granted, you know, it was almost a game-winning touchdown in week 1 versus the Chiefs, but Isaiah Likely is basically a big-bodied wide receiver. He's athletic as hell. And he's able to find gaps in especially zone defense where he is just always open? Question mark? He's just always open, dude. And if he's open, you're like, yeah, likely. He's going to likely be open. Mm-hmm. Something about that dude is fascinating to watch. It's fascinating to watch his game and see how basically he moves in space. To me, the weaponry is different compared to New Orleans. And the running attack, I feel like, is where we're going to have a little more success. What about you, Patrick, as far as weapons go?
I think like you said, the weapons are different, and I think this works more in favor of the Cowboys because one of the reasons, because there were several, one of the reasons they struggled against the Saints is not only do you have the speed of Shaheed, but Chris Olave isn't exactly running in molasses, right? He has some speed to take the top off as well. So you have to protect against 2 guys who can stretch the field. And then you also have the fact that Alvin Kamara can play well, not just play in space, but he excels in space, getting out on the edge with those runs, getting out in, screens and bubbles and quick dump offs in the middle of the field when you're allowing free releases on guys like Micah Parsons, e.g. the 57-yard touchdown. Toss to Kamara from Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. But when you flip it and you look at the Ravens, you only have one speedster to account for, okay? Likely, he's possession-based. Andrews, he's possession-based. Yeah. They're not George Kittle as far as, athletic tight ends who can also make plays in space. They're not big on yak. Right. And that works in the Cowboys' favor. When you look at Derrick Henry, like you said, Kyle, he's on the back end of his career. Can he still impact the game? Absolutely he can. No doubt. But not on the edges, not on the outside, not as a bubble screen threat, not as a quick dump in the middle of the field for a 57-yard touchdown. Absolutely not. All things considered, the talent is there, the weaponry is there, but it more favors what the Cowboys like to do defensively as far as shrinking the field, playing more closely to a phone booth than an airport tarmac, right? And that's going to allow them to play a little bit more downhill, get more physical with the Ravens, and possibly, shorten the windows to get more takeaways. And then the X factor is the more obvious one. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson on the ground is more dangerous than Derek Carr ever will be on the ground. Yeah. But Derek Carr is far more dangerous in the air than Lamar Jackson could ever dream of being. So how do you stop Lamar Jackson? That's what the Cowboys need to figure out.
You talked about the yards after the catch, which I think is really interesting whenever you take a look at those 3 weapons, Andrews, Likely, and Zay Flowers. And I'm looking at Likely's route chart and what he has on Next Gen Stats. He only has 2 grabs this year beyond 10 yards downfield. They don't throw it downfield to Isaiah Likely. Right. Same thing for Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has 2 receptions of more than 10 yards downfield. After the catch is where Likely has been dangerous, right, and Andrews has not been dangerous. Because one of those 2 receptions for Isaiah Likely was the big touchdown early where he went down the right sideline and took off.
That was also horrible angles.
Terrible angles from Kansas City. It was not a great play, but he still it happened. It happened. But then you've got on the opposite side of it, whenever you've got Mark Andrews, his yards after the catch have been less than 5 yards on almost every single one of his 6 receptions. There's one reception I'm looking at here that's 6 yards. That's it. Wow. Their yards after the catch are not there for Mark Andrews, but it is there for Isaiah Likely. That's what you go. That's going to what you talked about of These are different weapons.
Different weapons. And like I said, he's more of a big-bodied wide receiver with how athletic he is and how he's able to get down the field and his route running too, Isaiah Likely.
When it comes to Lamar, I will say blitz him.
Attack. Action Jackson, dude.
Attack. and I was having that thought coming into this week in today's episode. And then I started kind of looking through numbers to see if the numbers supported what the eyes were telling me, and they actually do. Here's just one example of the science. Lamar Jackson has been blitzed on, let's see, out of all of the times he's been blitzed, he's only completed 100 yards of passing, no touchdowns.
He's 20th in passer rating.
Yeah, passer rating 75.6.
Is that this year or is that
this year?
Okay.
This year, 75.6
Wonder
passer
what it
rating
was
against
last
the
year.
blitz. And his completion percentage above expectation when he's blitzed is negative 19%. He can't take it. He gets him off his spot, and it forces him to go into panic mode. And what does Lamar Jackson do when he panics? He runs.
Yep.
That's what you really need to defend against.
Overshown.
Exactly. That's what you really need to defend against, because that is what's going to keep your defense on the field if you can't stop him and avoid third down conversions. Yeah. But if you send that extra one or two guys back there, he's going to struggle because he can't get through his reads. And we joked about it. But, yeah, he's much better throwing at this point in his career than he was in the beginning. And he can make the right one when it matters most. Yeah. But over the course of 4 quarters, more often than not, you can rattle him by sending that extra guy.
So comparing it to week one, there's the science, baby. Where comparing it to week one, I mean, you look at mobility at quarterback, may be comfortable with his legs more so than his arms. Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson's a step up, significant step up. Running back, Jerome Forbes got some speed, got some power, but Derrick Henry's all power, all muscle, definitely a step up there. Wide receiver, Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers. I would argue Amari Cooper's probably a step up at receiver and more of a technician of a route runner. Zay Flowers is different, though. He's got a little bit of speed to him. And then you've got the tight end position. We just talked about the 2 tight ends, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. They have their own specific skill set, and you had that with Cleveland in week one with David Njoku before he was injured later in the game. So all of that to be said, is it going to be a similar game plan from Dallas in terms of defensive looks and what they did employ in week one, how they slowed down Cleveland to try and – I mean, it's a step up. Like I said, this offense is better than Cleveland's, at least based off of what we've seen here in 24 so far. But is it going to be a different look or a similar look game plan-wise?
I certainly hope so.
That it's the same?
I certainly hope it's a similar look to the Cleveland game versus the Saints game, right? For me, the biggest takeaway from watching the Ravens is that you were able to attack their offensive line.
Yeah.
And more often than not, Daniel Falele. Okay. He's had a lot of trouble last week with stunts and misdirection and Max Crosby. Who wouldn't have issues with Max Crosby,
right?
Yeah,
he's Max Crosby.
But that's where you bring Micah in to disrupt this dude. He's not getting off the snap quickly, and he's not getting his arms up quickly. He is getting
he's like
mauled.
6'10", whatever Falele is. So you can get around him, right?
Dude is getting mauled. He's getting mauled. Granted, he has help on the right tackle position with Roger Rosengarten, who is a dog who came in as a backup. He was a swing tackle last week and ate up Max Crosby for a big portion, which is why they took him away. And in that final drive, Max Crosby was just absolutely tearing up Falele. That to me is that's your key right there, man. You send Micah up the middle, which we're used to seeing now, right? You see him kind of over center, you see him over the guards as opposed to the outsides. To me, that's where you attack because they have the 6th lowest pressure percentage in the NFL currently. The offensive line does at 25%. The 7th fewest sacks currently. But 2 of those came on that final drive against
to Max Crosby.
Yeah. He absolutely wrecked him, man. To me, that was the quote-unquote blueprint to beating the Ravens, especially in the final minutes of that game. That's kind of where it's like, oh, this is what we should have been doing this whole time, is attacking this dude right here? Yeah. Absolutely.
And one thing the Saints were able to do was take advantage of how effective the play action became because of the success of Alvin Kamara. Yeah. But now you have a Ravens team coming in that doesn't like to use play action. No. And the reason they don't like to use play action is because, number one, Derrick Henry hasn't been Derrick Henry, hasn't been the king, right? Still impact games, absolutely, but not effective enough for you to operate off of the play action. Also, they feel like, all breaks down, Lamar can just run it himself. But the fact that they only run play action less than 17% of the time through the first 2 games, when you send in that blitz, or when you send in Micah, lining him up at 0 tech, 1 tech, whatever the case may be, there will be time to get to him because it's more of a true drop back than it is a play action, and you have to wonder if that ball is, if it's going to be handed off or if not. But the question becomes, are you, let me first say the answer, spy him.
Yes.
Okay, I'm talking good old fashioned James Bond espionage. All right?
Spy kids, like
spy
straight
kids,
up, like
all,
with the goggles.
the spy situations, like all of it. I'm talking about just there should be like this montage before the game where there's the 007, and you see Michael or overshown, like, pow. That's what I want now. Mike Zimmer made.
I'm more of a Tenet guy, so like even if Overshown's going on the reverse, he's going behind him and to tackle him.
Well played. My point being, whether it's Overshown or Micah, and the reason I say Micah, and this is what leads to the question, Mike Zimmer, when asked if Overshown would spy Lamar Jackson like he spied Deshaun Watson, Zimmer said, maybe we'll spy him with Micah Parsons because that guy's kind of fast as well. Fair enough,
bro. What a matchup that would be.
But I don't know. I don't know that it's necessary.
No, probably
because Micah 40 faster, but 10-yard split literally the same. 1.59 seconds pre-draft. Literally, wow. 1.59 seconds pre-draft for DeMarvion Overshown. 1.59 seconds pre-draft for Micah Parsons. Their 10-yard split is exactly the same. So the burst is the same. So all you need him Overshown to do is keep Lamar Jackson from burning the corner and then getting out into true space where he damages the secondary.
And you do that by sending Micah up the middle.
Fair.
You send Micah up the middle,
Micah,
and
then
just
Overshown is spying on the.
Woo!
Here we are.
You guys have fixed it. This is great.
But the thing is,
we're gonna win now.
So
it doesn't truly work. It doesn't truly work in the inverse, right? Because we just talked about DeMarvion having trouble right now disengaging blocks on larger guys. Micah obviously sheds blocks like water on a duck's back, okay? So you can't say, well, spy with Micah and then put DeMarvion in, though you can't, right? So I'm right here with Josh. The solution is that you threaten the interior with Micah Parsons, flushing Lamar out, where you have a QB spy in DeMarvion Overshown waiting who has the exact same burst.
If this happens just one time on Sunday, one time, I guarantee I'm not even going to be in the press box, and I know exactly what's going to happen. Patrik on the front row is going to turn around and look at Josh a couple seats down in the second row and just point up to him. Josh is going to be like, I got it done. I like it, guys. I do. I like the idea. I like the overall matchup. I think there's a shot here for Dallas to rebound in a big way defensively.
Yes.
Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not, because Lamar Jackson is a threat. Zay Flowers is a threat. We talked about Likely and Andrews and Henry. I mean, they have players on every level. But when we come back, I want to talk about the most underrated and overrated player that we've seen on the Cowboys defense so far this year, with more Talkin Cowboys right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time. But what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, the officially sponsored by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas. Patrick "No-C" Walker. We've got Chuck Rodriguez.
Wow.
I'm Kyle Yeomans. We've got Chris Beam in the back. This segment is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys. All smiles here on this Wednesday. We will preview the Cowboys' offensive matchup tomorrow. Isaiah will be back from his Good Morning Football venture. He will give us some QB vision, diving deep into the film for the Cowboys matchup with the Ravens defense, which has some studs on that side of the football as well. Quickly, before we say goodbye, I want to talk about most underrated player we've seen on the Cowboys defense so far this year.
Most underrated so far this year. Ooh, you know what? I'm going to stick with DeMarcus Lawrence. I think even after the game that he had in week 1, there are still, and this is a testament to, not a testament, but this is evidenced by conversations I've been having on social media. There's still this wildly underrating of what DeMarcus Lawrence brings to the table for the Cowboys. Yeah. And it is mind-numbing how people aren't really paying attention to what he does on the field. And then, of course, you look at week 2 when the majority of the defense kind of wet the bed. But then you look at that 57-yard touchdown from Alvin Kamara, and who was that almost chasing him down?
Mm-hmm.
Who was still playing? Who was still
worked on that play,
right?
Yep.
Even when things were getting well out of hand, it was DeMarcus Lawrence showing the effort, putting it on film, holding guys accountable. So for me, the most underrated remains DeMarcus Lawrence.
I like it.
For me, Osa Odigizua. I don't think enough praise is sent his way. Granted, you look at Pro Football Focus and his rating is in the dirt right now because of that Saints game. Unwarranted, in my opinion. I think, granted, they got out physicaled, in the last game, but since he got to the Cowboys, and I'm also sort of encompassing last year too. I know we're talking more so this year, but man. Unsung hero for me on the defense is Osa Odigizua.
I was trying to look up what his PFF grade is. My internet's running a little slow, but
it was in the 30s after last week.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was very not.
He was washed off the ball a couple different times, but he was also probably the most effective defensive tackle in the entire game. So, I mean, in a game like that, I get it because everybody else is having a bad game, but. Yeah, that's a tough one. To be different, I agree with both of you guys. I think D-Law probably would have been my choice as well. I'm going to go with Jordan Lewis. What he's done.
Yes, damn good choice.
Sir, yes,
because even whenever you're looking at the struggles that Caitlin Carson had in week 2, the struggles that even Trayvon Diggs had from a physical standpoint in week 2, you never really saw Jordan Lewis on film getting beat a ton. I think maybe one time in that game he got beat for one of those first down receptions, but consistently, physicality, coverage-wise, right place, right time. He does everything right, and he's becoming a weapon for that secondary.
And it's hard to stop the run when run blockers are in the secondary, absolutely mauling you. You know what I mean? Like
he's the best tackler that you have in your secondary. One of the best tacklers you have on your defensive roster. Locker room leader. He can take the ball away both in the air and force fumbles, as Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Lewis, he gets it done, and every year there's this faction of fans that are trying to replace Jordan Lewis, and every year he shows them why he is irreplaceable until further notice.
I might have been in that camp in 2020, right up until post-injury, the first injury that he had. I might have been in that camp. there's no way I'm ever getting in that camp. Like he is a top-notch player for that secondary, and he's continued to get better and better as the years have gone on. So the point of this segment of underrated players is all three of those guys are going to have to step up and take their game to the next level.
Nice. Well played.
If Mike Zimmer is going to have success in Week 3. That's exactly what we're looking at going into this Week 3 matchup.
Someone else will as well that I have in mind.
Who's that?
Linval Joseph.
Yeah.
He doesn't fall into the underrated category, but he does fall into the category of, I wouldn't say overrated, simply because he's only 2 games in and he missed all of training camp because he's a mercenary, so he needs to ramp up. But I say that to say there is expectation that he will do far better than what we saw him do against the Saints as far as getting pushed back and getting pushed off the line. He's Jordan here for Phillips the opposite of that, right? Jordan Phillips. Now, Jordan Phillips did have a very solid Week 1, but Linval Joseph between Week 1 and Week 2, keeping in mind, again, he's ramping up. The Cowboys need more from him, and they need more from him asaptually. And that begins Sunday against the Ravens. So definitely not going to say the guy is overrated.
Good word.
Yeah, because I believe he can still impact the game positively for the Cowboys. They just need that ramp up to be done, like right now.
Asaptually.
Asaptually.
I like it.
New word. Go with it.
Yep. Look it up. All right, that does it for us here on Talkin Cowboys. For Chris Beam in the back, Josh Rodriguez, Patrick No-C Walker, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow with the Cowboys offensive preview against the Ravens.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!